All right. So welcome everyone to this month's webinar that we have all about websites. So I love websites. I think websites are so much more than what people think they are. They are not just these online brochures. They're not just these throwaway things. They're these really powerful way, not just to connect with our clients, but for us to really lean into who we are and really manifest what we want to offer into the world. So we are going to get into how to create a high converting consulting or coaching website. So if you don't know me, I am Betsy Jordan. I am a ex-Disney consultant turned business mentor and brand messaging strategist. And who I work with are remarkable consultants and coaches and their unique strengths. So I've had the privilege of working with a ton of people and helping them repackage their amazing careers and turn it into a business that they love, a brand that gets them known for the consulting and coaching that they love to do. So that's what I'm all about. If you want to stay tuned to the end, I'm going to show you how you can get my website templates. But before we get started, also be sure to stay tuned to the end where we're going to get some live Q&A. If you have any burning questions or anything, just throw it into the chat and I will definitely take a look at it. But before we get started, what are your thoughts? Oh, wait, sorry. I'm like jumping all over here. Now, let me share you with what we're going to be talking about, and then I'm going to ask you some questions. So what we're going to be talking about today is why websites really aren't optional if you want sustainability and long-term success. Like if you're looking for the kind of success that really gets you paid as an expert, you really need to have a website. I'm going to get into the mistakes, the number one and the number two biggest mistakes that consultants and coaches make that turn away clients. I'm going to share with you what are the pages in a website. We're going to talk about copy versus design, which one's more important, and how do you think about website platforms and a whole bunch of other stuff. So that's what we're going to be going over today. Is there anything that you are hoping that you are going to get out of today's webinar that's not on here that you want to make sure that I am paying attention to? If you could throw that into a chat or just tell me it so that I have it top of mind. Or you could then give thumbs up and say, oh my gosh, Betsy, you're still bang on. This is everything that I've always wanted to learn. You could tell me that as well. I'm also going to give you the steps. So I'm not going to go over a lot of information, but I'm going to give it in more in a step-by-step way, because I think that's one of the big mysteries. Like, how do I get started? Like, what's the right order? What do you need to do? Hi, Michelle. And so we'll be talking about that. Oh, and nice to meet you, Julie. Thank you for being brave to be on the camera as well. So we're going to be going over that, and I'm going to be going over a very specific case study throughout the whole process that I know Michelle's going to really appreciate. So before we get started, I want to ask you, has anybody seen the TV show on Hulu called The Bear? So, okay, The Bear is really cool. So what the movie's all about is where there's this family who owns like this Italian beef restaurant in Chicago. So it's just kind of like a casual dining kind of restaurant. And the owner of that restaurant was a brother who died, and he gave it to his other brother who's in this picture. And this brother is a fine dining, like Michelin star kind of chef. And so he comes in and he wants to turn this this fast casual restaurant into this fine dining experience. And when you go through this whole thing, you'll see this whole transformation and how they have to create everything from the menu to the front of the house, and they see all of it. And I think what is so great about it is it really shows the value of a website. Because if you think about it, if you're going to go for a fine dining experience, how important is the front of the house dining experience? So if you wanted to pay top dollar for some amazing fine dining food, does it matter what the restaurant looks like? And if so, how? How important is the dining experience for you, and why it would justify the higher fees? Even if the food's just the same, what difference does the front of the house experience make to you? You can answer. We could have a conversation. Michelle, tell me, how important is the front of the house dining experience?
Super important. Otherwise, people won't notice you or even want to walk in. We'll have no curiosity.
It's true, but it's also part of the experience. It's not about the food, it's about the whole entire thing. People don't just pay for that, they pay for everything. So if you think about it, like even if you had a world-class chef in the back of the house creating this incredible food, creative, out of the box, great quality, great ingredients, and then you have the front of the house and it looks terrible, you would be like, okay, that's not worth it. It's not meaningful. This doesn't resonate. I'm not having the experience. Or if you're a great chef and you have no restaurant, you won't have a sustainable way to serve your food, and you won't be able to have an opportunity to sell and upsell and do anything else. So, and if you want to be seen as a fine dining restaurant and charge the prices, you need to align every touch point to that goal. So from a restaurant standpoint, that all makes sense because we're consumers. We're not going to expect to go to Wendy's and get something like you would get at a really great restaurant. You don't expect that. You match it to that. The same thing goes with your website. And that's the whole reason why I'm bringing this up, is that a lot of people think like, okay, I don't really need a website. I can just go out there and get clients. And you can do that for a while, but if you want a sustainable success with your business and you want to be able to attract clients who will value your expertise and pay well for it, you need to make sure that all those touch points are aligned, especially your website. Your website's your online store. It's your online home. Everybody's going to check out your website. And when they check out your website, it influences how they see you and then how they ultimately will pay you, even if that person comes to you from having just referrals. So the number one website mistake that consultants and coaches make is just not having one. What do you think it indicates to a potential client that if you don't have a website? What does it tell them about who you are and the value? Are we thinking it's rhetorical? I feel like I'm just not going to get the interactive element today. I mean, what it really conveys to a client, if you don't have a website, is that you're not legitimate. You're not really a business. You're not really serious. When you think about like who you want to work with, like you want to work with somebody who has a serious business, they've invested in it, they know what they're doing. You look like you're just sort of a subcontractor. You're kind of like a one-off person. You don't look serious. But the other problem is the number two mistake is just throwing up a website without any attention or any attention or intention. You have no real goals and you don't really have any attention without any attention, like really focus. Like one of my clients where we started working on his website, he was telling me the story why he really needed to work on it is he got a client potentially through a referral. And this particular client was looking at his website and it was terrible. It was abysmal. It was a really bad website. And she's like, you seem really great. I can't just get past this thing. Like it creates that barrier to someone wanting to work with you, especially if you're trying to go after like corporate clients and that they're not, that you don't even show that you're like the real deal. So you really want to pay attention to your website. So let's talk about why websites exist. Number one is it's for connection. This is your online store. This is where people will go to find out about who you are and what you do. So you need to make a connection with your clients. That's that first basic level. It establishes that, but it also establishes your credibility through the quality of what you do, through the quality of your content and your copy. You build trust with your potential clients. So this is how you establish like that, what you're talking about. You're the right person for them. And so that's another reason why. And it's also there for conversion. So what you want to be able to look at with your website is you want to make sure that it's set up to motivate people to take the next steps towards working with you. It's not a LinkedIn profile. LinkedIn profile just is a place where people can connect with you, but it's not really geared 100% for conversion. It's not written in that way. Your website is though. Your website is what's going to get people to book a call with you, to get on your email list, to buy your product, to buy your service. This is where it happens. And so conversion is really important. And you have to have that as a goal from the get-go. And it's a fact. Your website influences how potential clients perceive your value, even those who know you and or who are introduced to you by someone who knows you. So I realized this very clearly when I first launched my business. So this is my very first website back in 2010. So, fun of aging online. And it was very interesting because my first clients came from my first degree connections. So I had launched my website. I gotten people, to know about me, know they exist. So there was like people that I knew for a long time. that like, as soon as they saw my website, like they knew what I did. They knew this is when I was an organization development consultant. They knew what I did. They just didn't take action until I put my website up. And now all of a sudden these people are interested in working with me. And because of the quality of my website, this actually was high quality back in the day. I know it looks very dated because it is, but it made a difference, and it also made a difference when I was landing work and I was trying to charge fees, because I had some people like, oh, I know you, let's just work together. You'll just do this little thing. And I'm doing like my, more premium fees. And my website influenced them like, oh, wait a minute, she's really serious about this business. This is not a little side hustle. This is not what she's doing just to kind of do things on the side. This is a real deal. And so it makes a huge difference from that standpoint. And number 4, attraction. Yes, you can attract clients by virtue of your website. Every time somebody says that you can't, it makes me go crazy because this is how I've grown my business. I have Torsten here and I have Julie here, who I didn't meet outside of probably something with my website, something with my content, like, I don't know. We don't have we don't have connections in common. Michelle and I met because we had somebody in common, but she didn't actually become a client until she wound up participating in something like this. So your website's really important from an attraction standpoint. And yes, you can. My entire business was built because of my website, my content, and all of that. I'll give you a very tangible example. This is one of my most fun examples of a client that I landed. So I had created this new leader assimilation toolkit, which apparently was good from an SEO standpoint. And I wound up getting a client like out of the blue. And it was this client who was working on doing this amazing retreat in the middle of the jungle in Mexico. It was like the most beautiful resort you've ever been to. I didn't speak Spanish, so I brought a friend of mine who could translate for me. So I'm like facilitating my first bilingual session in the most gorgeous place in the middle of the Mexican jungle. And all because I wrote this new leader assimilation toolkit. I would have never had that opportunity if it wasn't for that new leader assimilation toolkit. So, and this was housed on my website. And so this is how you land clients in a way that is much more effortless and it's much more interesting. I love the opportunity. Like, I love doing these webinars because I literally don't know who I'm going to meet. And now we have somebody here from Germany, that makes it a whole lot more fun. So that's the power of what your website can do for you. And so the thing is, it's true, is you really can get by without a website for a while, or one that's not great. You could do that if your whole marketing and everything that you're doing to get clients is just with referrals, particularly personal referrals. It could work for a while, but it's only going to work until it stops. At some point, your referral network will dry out and it's time to build your brand. So it's going to work for a while. But it's not going to work forever. And the other thing that's also true is if you want to start your business with a high quality website with intentional brand building, then you can do marketing that's not just referrals. Going for referrals only is a hustle. It's a very exhausting hustle. Would anyone agree with me on that? Like, constantly asking people and chasing people to work with you. It's exhausting. It can be soul crushing and you feel like you're almost begging. So if you start your business with like, yeah, I'll still do networking. Like, that's really important. That is an important marketing strategy, but I'm going to round it out with other things. And I'm going to use my website as a hub. You're going to more than 10x your ROI. You're going to fast track your results. You're going to get paid more faster, and you're going to sustain your success. I mean, Michelle's working on her website right now. What would you say the difference is, like, having a website and your ability and your interest and courage to go out to market yourself versus without having one?
There's clarity about the impact I want to make, especially given the shift that I'm making. And I also resonate with that comment about ever since COVID, I was still, and all during COVID, I relied on referrals and that worked. And then when I switched countries, I switched from Canada to the US, and yeah, all of a sudden, boom, everything was just quiet.
And why are you working so hard on your website right now? Like, what impact do you hope that this website's going to have for you?
Lead generation. I've never had to do lead generation in a marketing standpoint because I went straight from Big Four consulting to things falling in my lap for years until, again, COVID, right? So I have to begin, it's helping me learn to begin to be proactive around lead generation and putting my own self out there as a brand, as Michelle, and not hiding behind kind of the corporate labels. So that's really key. And the clarity in writing and being concise and knowing what your message is. Just the act of writing the content for the website does that.
I love what you're saying, like that there's the clarity, there's the lead gen. The other things like I noticed when I went from my like, oh, I'm just going to throw up a website to like, I'm really going to invest in my business is I was really proud of my higher quality website. I wanted to direct people to my website. When my website was so, it's like, yeah, I'll get out marketing. I'm like, oh, but please don't look at my website. Like it creates a different kind of confidence to get out there and do what you need to do. So now, are we all convinced that websites are important and we don't want to play small on our website? If you're in agreement, say yay, yay, we're totally in agreement. Woo. All right, awesome. And thank you, Ashley, for showing up on camera with us so I could ask you questions too. So the first step, this is what Michelle was just referencing. Oh, Ada raised her hand. Where is Ada?
I'm here. Sorry, I came in a few minutes after, so you may have mentioned, but I'm assuming you're saying like if it's anything where you're like you especially where you're the business, the website is important for people to have a way to find out more about you and what you offer than as opposed to you just have like your phone number or something like that. Is that what you're saying?
I think that the thing I think what you're saying is really important is it's that you're the business. If you're going to just say, go look at my LinkedIn profile or just call me, you don't have a business, you're a subcontractor. Your website, all businesses have websites. Do you have any businesses that you legitimately do work with that does not have a website? Every business has a website. And so like to me, what you're saying here is what's really important is I need to see myself as a business. I might be the business, but I have a business. And as a business, of course, I'm going to have a website. Does that answer the question well enough for you, Ada? I'm assuming.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. You are the business, and you're the CEO, you're the president, and you have to represent.
Yes, and you have to act like you have a business. And as a business owner, you have to have a website. But in terms of the steps, the first step is before you do anything, like a lot of people will just say, okay, I'm going to start my consulting or coaching business. I'm going to rush and go find a website person, or somebody's going to help me with name my business or whatever. Your first step really is to clarify your brand and your foundational messaging. You really need to know who you serve, what's the value that you create, how you're different, so that you could even have clarity on how you want to show up. And this is the hardest part of the work. And this is where a lot of people get stuck. Like if you tried to write website copy and you're like, I don't know what to write, that's because you skipped over the brand messaging. Because most people don't stop you. Most web developers aren't going to say, whoa, let's really get clear. Like, who are you trying to attract on this website? They might ask at a high level, like, oh, I'm looking for attracting women. Like, okay, women, what kind of women? What are they doing? Like, you have to be more clear. You have to be more precise. I'm going to use an example of one of my clients. Her name is Amy. So we're going to be using Amy as a case study because she's somebody who's worked really hard recently on her website process. And so I'm going to share with you her journey. And so Amy's a therapist. So she's been a therapist for many years, and she had a website, and she really wanted to step into more thought leadership. So she started a YouTube channel. She really wanted to work on books and all kinds of things. So she wanted to expand her practice versus like just the regular therapy practice where you have an office, you get paid by the hour, you have people come in, they book appointments, you do whatever you do as a therapist. She really wanted to get focused and get clarity on how she's different. And when we started to work together, it's not like her messaging was horrible. Like, so she was still focusing on emotional abuse was her area of focus, but when we started, her branding was all about like, she had some of it was about them, but most of it was about what she did. This is her therapy approach. This is all it is. And so the spotlight of her business was still ultimately on her. And we're going to go through her website in more detail, but it was really on all the methodology, the services. You could even see services approach, rates. Like this was all about selling that rather than what we created for her later, which was really focusing on her clients and the value. So what Amy and I worked on when we worked on her brand messaging was clarity on who's struggling with emotionally abusive relationships and what's the impact. Lots of people who can deal with that kind of issue. And she identified it's smart, accomplished women and whose this situation was affecting their ability to thrive in all the other aspects of their life, and so she got clear more on the value that it was smart, accomplished women. And that creates a whole different dynamic because, there's other kinds of issues that this particular person will deal with. I'm going to explain to you where her warm, relatable image comes in when we talk about her website, but you even see the difference. She's leaning in, and you see like, oh, I'm here to help you. So working on that messaging changes everything. So that's the first step. So if you're not clear, what in the world do I put on my website? You probably skipped your brand messaging. You need to go back to that particular thing. Michelle, you could probably speak to that because that's something that you worked on that you were struggling with as well. I'm gonna let you speak to that and then we can continue on.
Well, the struggle is in figuring out also the being brave enough to go for a niche. So instead of thinking you can, like I had in my head, well, I can serve like these 5 categories, but really having the courage to niche in on women in tech and professional services, which is also what I have been my whole life. So, Betsy made me realize that, well, Michelle, you know who you are. So speak to those people because that is a great niche because you can totally authentically speak about it from your own 20 years experience being that person in professional services and tech.
Mm-hmm.
That's just one example.
And there's also the value too, is like from a client standpoint. I have niched to my ideal clients are not just consultants and coaches, but consultants and coaches who are in this business because they really care about transformation, not just the money. Because a lot of people want to go into consulting and coaching, particularly consulting is like cha-ching, cha-ching. It's all about making $1 million. So I wanted to get clear, like, no, I want to help people who really want to get out there, make a difference as consultants and coaches and build something that's more authentic to them. That separates me. You can go to a lot of brand messaging people. You can go to a lot of other website people, a lot of other business mentors. But the fact that I niche down to serve you all who happen to be here, like it would make a difference because everything that I do is designed to talk to you. That's the value. Is like every time when you're really clear in who you serve, like then the people who are on there, it's like you can talk about similar things that other people might, but you could really tailor it to your audience. So once you get the brand messaging done, then you need to get clear around how are you going to attract clients? What is your process? Like what's going to be in your marketing system? Is it literally just going to be networking? Then we need to figure out how that looks like it, because that's going to dictate, what your website's going to do and the role it plays into your overall marketing system. Are you going to want to use content? Are you going to start a podcast? Are you going to be a speaker? All of those things matter so that you can create your website to be the hub of that particular marketing system. So with Amy, as you can see, she started off with her YouTube channel. And so she got clear that for her, brand awareness was going to come through YouTube as a main thing and her speaking. So all of those things are designed to drive traffic to her website. But then from her standpoint, she has a couple paths that she really wants to take people through. So she wants to go more global. And so it wasn't like that everything can go to one-on-one therapy because she's only licensed in Georgia. So she had to think about like, well, how do I want to path this? Like what's the path I want to take people to? So some of them, she wants them to buy her books. And some of them might want to work with her individually. And so she had to structure the website to support those calls to action. So she created a quiz that gets on the email list that leads people to books. And then she has a secondary call to action, which is booking a call for sessions or speaking opportunities. So you need to be clear before you even start writing your website or doing anything from a sitemap standpoint. Is you really need to know, like, what are you actually going to do to get clients? And then how does your website serve as that hub? Is this part clear, or what questions, comments, or feedback do you have about this part? And if it's clear, you could just give me a thumbs up and I won't just like make everybody sit in anxious silence. Okay. So now we move into the next step. So is step 3, there's like sub steps. So once you kind of have that, first you get your brand messages, then you go into getting clarity on your promotional plan. Now we split into several concurrent activities going on at the same time. So one of the big steps is writing or hire someone to write your compelling website copy. So the thing about website copy is that there's nothing you can do to make your methodology sound exciting because your clients don't care. They don't care about your 5-step process to X, Y, and Z. They care about the impact that your process is going to create for them. So your number one copy mistake is not to say, I have a proprietary 5-step system that's going to get you from here to there. Like sometimes you could share like the 5 steps if the issue that somebody's coming to you is like, hey, I'm wondering about the steps to accomplishing this goal. Yes, you can do that, but they don't need to know like I'm a Gestalt change, trained, whatever, and I use asking lots of questions and all of that. Like you could talk about some of that stuff when you get to your proposal, when you're actually landing work. But when it comes to website copy, like that's like clients don't care. So the thing is that this is like really, really true. No one works with you because of your methodology. They work with you because of the results working with you creates. Your methodology is one part of your tool. Nobody loves the methodology. Nobody loves, like, does anybody love going to a therapist or love, love the process? Like most of us don't need to know how the sausage is made. Like we don't need to know, but and when you're working with a consultant or coach, the difference that you're going to make is because of your unique strengths. Like they're going to hire you, like not because of what you did. And this became really, really clear to me. Once I pivoted from consulting to what I do now as a business mentor and brand messaging strategist, I interviewed a bunch of my old clients, who are executives around why they use consultants. And I thought, because I thought that would be like nicest service, for my audience to know this. And I was interviewing this one executive who I worked with over and over and over again. And and he was sharing with me, like why he worked with me all of this time. And he's like, well, you have this really unique ability to sort and organize ideas and put words around things that I can't really put words around. And that's what it is. And you could do that with me one-on-one, and you could do this with these teams. I'm like, but Brad, what about my master's in organization development? It's like, oh, I don't care about that. I'm like, well, what about like my experience as in organization, like in org design and strategy? He's like, oh, no, I didn't care about that. I'm like, what? Like, how did you not care about this? I kept thinking like, oh, well, I have all this expertise and, this technical expertise. And he's like, no, it's because you do this. And so when you are just focused on the methodology and you don't really talk about like your approach, meaning how you show up with the clients, you're missing out on why they really even want to work with you in the first place. So the thing about compelling copy is it's written to your clients in the second person. The best way to get out of your head is to get into your clients' heads. Like if you're in analysis paralysis, try to think about who they are and write to your clients. You want to be able to write in ways that make sense to them. So don't do the industry or jargon. When you think it makes you look smart, it makes your clients feel dumb. And what do dumb clients do? They exit your website. So you don't want to do that. You want to focus on the benefits. What's the results? You want to be friendly and conversational. I was working with one of my clients on her copy, and it was fascinating to watch her. So we'd have this really great conversation. She's like this really engaging person. And she's like, I just do this. She really focuses on manager empowerment. And she's like, when companies are growing and it's like the Wild Wild West when it comes to management, everybody's doing something different. And, and what I do is like, I get everybody on the same page around how they want to create their management bench for the first time. I'm like, that's great copy. And then she goes off and writes it and it turns into all this gobbledygook. I'm like, what happened? Like, you just wrote it. And I think there's something that we got trained in with corporate is like, we have to take like the normal words and turn it into some sort of third person or whatever. And you have to unlearn all of that to write great copy, and just need to be clear too. So when we get all aspirational, like what you saw on my first website, I ignite leadership and organizational potential. It really makes no sense to anybody. I remember meeting with a friend of mine who worked at Google, and he knows all about search engines. And he's like, so what do you do? And he's like one of those kind of people who does like the little tent thing when he asks questions, like, what do you do? I'm like, oh, I ignite leadership and organizational potential. And he's like, no, what do you do? I'm like, I ignite leadership and organizational potential. He's like, no. And then he stopped me and did a little training. He's like, what you're doing is you're using push words, not pull words. You're trying to make your audience understand something that they don't understand. And you're making them come to you rather than you go to them. And so that's what really got me a lot on this messaging journey is like, oh, that's what it is. Be clear is better. And when it comes to your website, you don't write for a page, you don't write a page on the whole. You have to really be paying attention to the page that you're working with, but you write for content blocks. You're not writing a whole big long treatise. You have to think about the content blocks. So there's certain pages and they have different reasons and why they exist. So your about page is about you, but it establishes your empathy and authority to help them. So it's not really about you. It's about why you're the person that your clients can turn to that actually really cares about them and their authority. You know, so when we were working on Michelle's website copy, we really got into her story. Like, well, why do you care about women who think for a living and their cognitive brain drain? And she's like, well, here, let me tell you about my story. And she told us about the story. It's like, that's what you put in your about page. And so the about page, I usually recommend do the about page first, because usually this is like your why. And once you have your why, then you can get into a little bit more of the how. And then you look at your services page. And this isn't about like, let me tell you every single thing that we're going to do together. It's like, let me tell you about the features and benefits of what I do and the value that you're going to create from our partnership. When it comes to your website, especially if you are a consultant in an organization, there's no click add to cart on your website where, oh yes, you can make a, you know, somebody's going to click add to cart, I will pay you $100,000. Your proposal is going to do that work. You know, if you're going to be charging for anything over like $497, you're going to have something else outside of your website to sell it anyway. So it's likely your clients are going to sign up to work with you when you have a conversation with them, if you're going after anything from a decent price point. So what you need to be able to do is pique their interest, showcase the value of what you do so that they want to get on a call with you. Ada?
Yeah, I just wanted to say what you had just said, even the 5 minutes ago, it really hit home with me, because believe it or not, just before coming in here is why I was a few minutes, is I just came from a separate, unrelated talk where they were talking about utilizing your strengths, you know, for career. And you just made that comment that's what stood out to one of your best clients. So,
Well, thank you for sharing that, because I think that is the essence of your brand. You know, like one of the things, like I know Michelle, like I've been working with Michelle, so I'm sorry, Michelle, if I hate being on the hot seat right here. But one of Michelle's unique strength is her ability to, you know, organize and put structure to things. You know, like that's like her structured thinking. She's very much like, she puts things into boxes. So like there's things that when you think about like working with her, if you were going through something, it's like she could break things down in a way where things are like digestible. You know, it's just like there's things that are different. That's why people would want to work with her, you know, over somebody else. You know, so that's like, it's a big part of your value proposition. I thank you for bringing that up, Ada. Your homepage. So your homepage is like your executive summary. But the thing about your homepage that's really important that you have to know is it just tells your clients, you know, your potential clients at a glance that they're in the right place and that you're the one with the solution that they've been looking for. It's your homepage just kind of like, it's almost like you picture like your homepage that kind of like gives a little bit of direction to everything else that's in your website, you know, big picture, like what you do. You know, if you have an opt-in, it'll be on there, but it'll also like get people to go visit your about page. It'll get people to visit your services page. It'll get people to check out your content or what have you. So it's your executive summary. And then your blog. Your blog is super important for so many different reasons. If you're not into creating content, I get it. It can be hard for a lot of people, but there's so many benefits. Your blog is where you can create a body of work, like versus like a social media. Like you could post all day long on social media and it disappears, you know, with the algorithm. When you have a blog, like this is your body of work and it establishes your credibility because it shows your clients like a little bit of taste, you know, like if they read their blog, it's like, oh yeah, that was really insightful. Like I got some value here. It's kind of like when you go to, you know, like Costco or Sam's or like those are for Torsten, those are these big warehouse kind of stores, and they always have little samples everywhere, you know, and you give people a little taste. That's what your blog is all like, you know, all about. But the most important thing about your blog is this is how you attract clients to your website. You could create like SEO on the back end of your overall website and, you know, try to embed it with some sort of keywords for the pages. but that's not really going to generate your SEO. You're not going to be able to track clients unless you create content and set it up properly. So that's another whole big thing. So the blog is important. And then the contact us. I'm not a fan of forms anymore. I recommend people going to a calendar. People don't fill out forms, or people who do fill out forms tend to do it. There's a lot of spam that you get with forms. You just want to make it easy for people to connect with you. And so if you make it easy for them to jump on a call with you, like if you go to my website, you're going to see like schedule a call or book a free brand call or something like that. I forgot the language I have at this exact moment. You can get right to my calendar, and we can get started. So you make it easy, but you could also include like other ways that people can get a hold of you, LinkedIn or what have you. And then there's a bunch of other pages. So I promised it was a 7-page blueprint, but it's not really, because it depends on your marketing strategy. So the 7 is sort of like, here's a bunch of other pages that you could look at. If you have a freebie, because you're trying to do list building or email list building, you're going to need an opt-in page with a thank you page. If speaking is going to be something that you're going to want to do for paid or as part of your marketing system, you're going to need a speaker page. If you're selling a book, you're going to need a book page. Or if you have a lot of interviews and other things where you have on the media, and there's a whole bunch of other pages. So the other pages, those 5 pages, are the core. Your home, your about, your services, your blog, and your contact, those are core. These might be other ones as well. So that's sort of the anatomy of the website. So that's the third. So step 3A is you got to write copy for all those pages. At the same time, you need to hire or work with somebody, do it yourself, or hire someone if you don't have graphic design skills, to create high quality visual branding assets. So one of the things that's unique to how my team operates is we do icon centric logos. To me, icons are really important. I don't know if you see in a lot of my backgrounds, like you see my butterfly bee, that's my icon. For Amy, like having the hand and the heart was a big thing for her. So this becomes like the icon of her business. And so having the icon there, Michelle, you could describe your logo.
I have a brain that is the illusion of a brain with a ginkgo leaf. So it's a head with a ginkgo leaf in it that looks like a brain.
And the meaning of that.
Yeah, I help people increase capacity, intellectual and creative capacity, or their brain power and well-being. Yeah.
So the icons are fun, and there's a lot of things that you can do with your icons. So you could have an icon that is like connected to, that has something like Amy has with her heart. I have one of my clients, we use his initials, but we put it in like a seesaw because he's a CFO and he wanted to show like balance. So there's a lot of ways that you can do that. If you want to check out some of my other clients and how their website looks like, head on over to my website under portfolio, I think it is, or success stories, and you'll see what some of those examples are. Also, the other things that you need is a color palette. So you have a main color palette, you have a secondary color palette, and then accent colors, but then also having a specific call to action color. One that really shows up on the website that's like, this is what you need to do. Because this is how you're going to guide your visitors through their journey. So the call to action color is very important. One of the things that's really important for you to have consistency with your color palette is do what we provide for my team, where is you see all of the hex codes, so that anytime you're working on something, creating something, you go back to this. And then you have your fonts. So some of my clients just will go for the header and the body. A lot of them, though, prefer also to have a script. Like I have a script as mine as well, which kind of allows you to provide a little bit of like differentiation of different things. But you for sure need a header font and you need a main font. And then this is unique to what we do. I love these. So you could see where Amy's icon is embedded in these branded backgrounds. So we use this as part of her design. What's wonderful about these branded backgrounds, I use them all the live long day. You could see my PowerPoint is built with a lot of my branded backgrounds. You could see the faint butterfly bee back here. And this is what's so great about having the website, these visual branding assets, is you could turn this into a header for your LinkedIn profile. You can make a custom PowerPoint if you want to. You can make little squares for your social media posts, and so that everything that you do has a consistent brand image. So that's step 3B. And then there's step 3C, which this is going to create memories for Michelle, is you want to get professional images of you. So actually, Michelle came along with Amy to my home in Denver, where I just moved from, and we did a photo shoot. And so what's really important when you're doing a photo shoot is, one, you want a photographer who understands how to shoot brand photos. Like, you don't want somebody who just does like portraits. You need somebody who understands branding and also websites. So we did all kinds of pictures, so we have all kinds of pictures that, and all kinds of different outfits and variations, but it's important to be able to have, your hero images, but then there's a whole bunch of other images that you're going to need. So the reason why you do the photos later is if you kind of know what your copy is going to look like, then you know what kind of other pictures you're going to need. So you're going to need pictures of, like, maybe if your services are about you coaching, you might want a picture of you looking like you're coaching. Or if you're going to do a lot of masterminds, you could see this picture down here, like where Amy's in front of a computer. So like my team could just like plop a little thing where it looks like a little Zoom meeting or something like that. Her book is there. So we have a lot of pictures with her book. So you kind of have to decide, what it is, but make sure you do something like this particular photographer. What's so great about her is she gives all kinds of options. So don't go for just like a photographer, go for somebody who understands branding, understands websites, and understands marketing, so that you can play around with different images that you're going to need for all kinds of different things. Like, there's all the goofy, Michelle's going to remember this, like there's all kind of goofy stances that you might need to have, and you're going to be like, like these kind of things. But it helps because you could see, at some point you're going to have a sales page and say, click here and sign up. So you want to make sure you have all of those. So that's the third step. Any questions about the third step before I move into the next one? We're going to say all good. All right. No, good. Okay. Because I'm going to just like sit here and keep pressuring you if you don't talk back to me. So then once you have all of those assets assembled, so you got your copy, you got your images, you got your visual branding. Now it's time to bring it together into your credible and authentic online store. So I am going to stop this screen sharing, and I'm going to go and show you actually the before and after, so you can see what it looks like. So hold on a second. Wait a minute. That's not what I wanted it to do. Hold on a second. All right. So this is what Amy's website looked like beforehand. So again, there's some decent copy here, but you can kind of see like how the look is and how it goes. So there's a lot of stock images, there's other things that, like there's just not a lot of pop and sizzle to it, and it's like, here's how this could help you. And, and it kind of has this older picture of her, there's stuff about her services. So a specialized area of treatment, relationship counseling, she goes into the details. Here's the details of her approach, step-by-step healing. Her rates are here, some of the resources, like it goes to her video, her quizzes, and all of that. And then this is how we brought all of this stuff together with her website. So you could see we brought in those pictures that I was showing you that we took, these warm, relatable images. We do have like a stock photo, but it kind of explained a little bit more of like the situation. And the copy starts off with, are the dreams for your career thwarted by loving someone who does or say things that hurt you? So it's a little speaking more to what's going on for this particular client. You could see the branded backgrounds in the background here, but you see all of these warm, relatable images. And she's talking a little bit more like, I'm here to help you. It's not like, here's what the benefit of counseling is. I'm your compassionate guide, and here's all the things that I could do for you. And we included the testimonials, and then there's all this other fun stuff that you can create, like her book. It's like, instead of just showing the book, there's like a picture of her holding the book. Oh, I wonder who this is here. And staging that picture. So there's a lot of fun stuff here. Like, are you more motivated to take my free relationship quizzes, or see where all of these weird images that you're thinking that you don't have any use for, like they all come together. So you could see the difference between the two and how it all happens, or even seeing her story, where she talks about like, oh, I get it. She's telling her story. I get it. I've been there, but now I'm here to help you. I get you. So there's all of this stuff comes together onto the website. Any comments or questions about what you see? Actually, I'd love to hear your comments on what you see is the difference between these two.
I have a comment just because I was part of the staging. So I'm not a client of Amy's, but we did, what was so cool was Betsy gathered two of us in one photo shoot session. And one, it made it so much easier and natural to do a photo shoot, which for me was super uncomfortable. I thought I would hate the whole thing. And I kind of did hate it, the process, even during, but I was shocked at the quality that came out because of the relaxed, there were 5 women in the house the whole time when we were doing it. Amy and I were the two, clients of Betsy's. And it was just a relief to see that the 100 photos I got for a very good price from this particular photographer, right? And it was, yeah, I was just, that was the most surprising positive thing about how that was facilitated by Betsy.
But what do you see as the difference with Amy's website now that you remember the pictures, but seeing them integrated into the website?
Sounded like you did a multi-person session, so you all traded off on your businesses getting photos in one shoot.
We did. We had
Awesome.
2 people at the same time. So we had one person getting hair and makeup, the other person was getting started, and then we kind of rotated around where like we did different things. Like I kind of visualize a live retreat at some point where it's just going to be like an assembly line of, getting a whole bunch of them. But it is more relaxing because everybody's kind of doing the same thing. So that really helped. And then, and then the beauty that the thing about like what Michelle was saying and why it's so important to get a photographer is the more pictures, the merrier, because my team was able to go to town with creative uses of all of these photos. So it's like only when you get like a photographer only gives you like 5 pictures, like what I did, with my website. I'm sure everybody looks at my pictures and say, but dear God, Betsy, do you have anything besides that red dress? And it's like, I don't, because I only got like 7 pictures, compared to, Michelle and Amy, who got like a whole ton, and my team was able to go to town with them. So there's a lot of benefits from there. And you could see it's important to be able to talk about, like what you want to do first. So on her services, the sessions, like this is a consultation, this is more personal in person. So you can use these pictures in a different way. So like with the blog, it's like, here's her with her computer, the book. So, instead of just like, oh, it's a generic book, it's like it's her holding her book, now what you want to buy the book compared to like looking at this one compared to, where's her book? Hold on, let me see if I can find. Like which would motivate you? Would you want to buy her book here or would you want to buy her book here? Like which one motivates you?
The
This?
one with her holding it, it's more personalized.
Yeah. And, now you see some of this, similar kind of thing, but it creates, more of that personal thing, like how do you use it and all of that stuff. So this is where the power of your website comes in, completely changes the up leveling. Amy's transformed from this therapist into this thought leader, and right after she was done with this particular process, then she was able to start working on a new keynote signature talk that she wanted to do and move into a different direction. Oops, I don't know what happened here. Hold on. Let me stop sharing and get the other one back. So that's the power of putting this all together. And if you want to personally see this yourself, hold on. Yes, more emotional selling. That is so true. That's good. If you want to jot down the URLs, Amy's website isn't 100% live yet, but you can take a look at both of these and you could see your own before and after on your own computers. So question, what do you think is more important? Copy, design, or photos? If you had to pick one to be amazing, what do you think is the most important? Any answers? Let's see if somebody answered here. A picture's worth 1,000 word design, photos. I think I would say all of them. They're all important. But I would say copy drives everything else. You know, like if you don't have a copy, so you need to have your strategy going into the copy so that you even know what the rest of the images are. And the other thing about copy is how you're going to get found online. And copy is what tells your visitors what to do next. So you could have a beautiful photo-centric website that doesn't really say anything. You know, I had one client who came to me who's like, she really wanted a photo-centric website, had a really hard time with her copy. So she got the photo, she got really great photos. It had a pretty plain background, but then it doesn't convert because nobody knows what to do. Like it doesn't resonate. People might want to look at those photos. They're all very important, but the copy drives the rest. So that's why I would say if you're going to start somewhere, you know, make sure you get clear copy, make it good so people know. And then as it relates to the other two, invest in the best that you can afford. Yes, content is king, but context is queen. Yes. Yes, I love that. That is so good. But when you're going to invest in it, go for the best you can afford. I remember like after I had my first website, I got a little cocky and I thought, oh, well, you know, I could do some of this stuff on my own. So I hired somebody less expensive. I'm like, I could oversee this one or whatever. The website just got worse and worse and worse. And then I spent money after money after money. I finally went back to somebody who knew what they were doing. And what I realized is like, I'm not rich enough to go cheap because I keep spending so much more. I spent more money on my less expensive solutions than I did just investing right the first time. And so the key here is you got to go for all of them and invest the best that you could afford. So if you can't afford a professional photo shoot at this point in time, then make sure that whoever you're working with, you have a really good shot list and you have somebody, you know, who can help you smile, you know, and pose properly. Like Michelle hated some of the stuff in the photo shoot because in order to get a good photo, you got to like do weird things with your body. You know, like the way you naturally stand doesn't look good in photos. So you need somebody who at least, if you're going to just use your iPhone to get pictures, like, you know, I could take a picture like this, or I could like move it like that. And for some reason, you know, ballroom dancers will tell me why, you know, it looks better in a photo. And then once you get all this done and you want to really make your website go on, consistently create remarkable content. I mean, a worst case scenario, I'd rather have you launch your website without a blog, you know, or without any content at the beginning, just so you can get something that's really good from a credibility standpoint. And then maybe later you can start doing that. But you want to really be able to have that opportunity. Like maybe you could just make it on hide for a little bit, but make sure that you have a plan at some point if you want to stop just stop the the chase for clients and attract them. Make sure you start thinking about how you create remarkable content. And the best way that you want to do with with the content to track the clients is you want to match what the content is that, let me say that again. You want to create content that matches what people are looking for. So, you want to be thinking about like, well, when somebody's up in the middle of the night and they're dealing with something that relates to what you do, what would they actually type into a Google search bar? And write content around that. It's usually the steps to, how to, reason why. Those are the higher performing blogs, because you could picture if you're up in the middle of the night, like, why am I so tired? Why am I not getting enough clients? Like those are the kinds of questions you ask or something like that. Ashley, you have a question?
Yes, you said to make sure that you're putting a blog. Is having the podcast on your website, could that be replacement of the blog?
The podcast doesn't have the SEO behind it. So the podcast is good because I attract different people from who are looking for podcasts. So it doesn't always drive traffic to my website, because there's a lot of people who download my podcast, but not from my website. They download it somewhere else. So it doesn't always drive the SEO traffic to my website, because you don't have the same kind of back end. You could take a podcast and run it through your blog. Like you could, embed the player there. And some platforms actually will allow your podcast to be your blog, but you need to make sure that you have all the other SEO kind of stuff going on. But from content standpoint, this has been the hardest thing for me, because I'm a prolific content creator. I got a lot of stuff I want to write about, is taking that extra beat to say, well, what's the topic that I want to write about? And how do I reframe it in a question that a client actually would care about? And rewrite it from that standpoint, and to be much more precise. Like when I think about what really converts for me, my steps to a consulting engagement cycle is has ranked for a long period of time, because it matches. people want to know, what are the steps to a consulting engagement cycle? Steps to starting a consulting business. How do I name a consulting or coaching business? Like when I just moved, which is why you see like all this blank on my wall. I just, and when I relaunch, like when I get back into the swing of things after I move, I'm probably going to reduce my podcast to every other week so that I can start adding in more blogs, more other kinds of things that matches. Like you have to really be paying attention to the channel that you're on. Like my podcast works in the format it does because podcasting is good for people who want to go take a walk and listen to something, but it's not the same for a blog. Blogs are for readers, so they want information there, which is different than YouTube. YouTube, people like tutorials. People don't go to YouTube to necessarily be inspired all the time. They want more practical information. So you have to kind of be thinking about the channel.
Okay, thank you.
So let's review. Steps to your credible website that converts. Number 1, don't skip over your brand strategy and messaging. Without it, you'll have no clue what to write about or what to convey on your website. Don't skip that step. Second, you need to be clear about the role that you want your website to play in your marketing system. And if you don't have a marketing system, get one. You can do referrals for a time, but you got to do other things. You got to start looking at all the different ways. Digital marketing is not going away anytime soon, especially since the pandemic and a lot of like live, people can't get overly reliant on live stuff anyway, and the networking. So you want to make sure that you are thinking about what's your marketing system and what's the role that your website plays. The other thing is just don't settle. Don't settle for lame copy or corporate ease copy. Don't do a generic logo. The problem with going on Fiverr is you're not going to have a real custom logo that's really unique to you and represents anything that you want to do. You can go on Canva to get a logo, but does it really represent the essence of you? And is it contained within this overall visual branding, with the fonts and the colors and all of that creates that image? And don't just settle for, like I would probably say is I'm not a fan of stock photos. Like stock photos just doesn't seem to do anything. The other is like make the copy the star of your website. Who's the one who just said, content is king and the other one's queen? Think about that one. And to establish your credibility and attract clients, like make sure you create content because that's going to be what drives the SEO. So that is it. Oh, I do have my website blueprint, so if you want more specific on the 7, in this blueprint, it does give you more of a template of what to look at and what the content blocks are for your home, your about, your services, your contact, your blog, and your opt-in form and your thank you page. So definitely check that out. If you want to work with my team, by all means, reach out to me. I have you can just book a call on my website. And next up, if you're wondering about copy, my next free workshop is all around how to find the words that will resonate with your clients and get them excited to work with you. So definitely check that out. And that is it. You might have a bunch of other questions. How many pages, platform, writer's block? This is over to you all, and you tell me what questions you have, and I'd love to answer them for you.
Yeah, I have a question. What do I have to do different if I address B2B and not B2Z? I got the impression that that you are addressing with your website. It's your name, and also Amy's website is addressing more the B2C market, and so I'm interested what I have to do in a different way if I address firms, companies.
What you would say for the firm is you really want to think about you want to get more clear from a brand messaging standpoint is like who in the firm is the most likely buyer. So if you're dealing with like a startup firm, it's likely going to be the founder, and how do they see themselves? They're owner, founder kind of person, and you write to their pain points. So if you're trying to look at a B2B where it's like, are you a founder of a startup and you have a really great idea and you're trying to set this thing up for scale and you're not quite sure what to do? I get it. I'm here to help. So your messaging, the structure is the same. It's just your messaging. But let's say that you are, moving and you want to be a B2B consultant to maybe someone who's a larger company and who's dealing with operations, and you're trying to get the front line to operate in a more consistent way. You would say, are you in charge of like a huge front line and everybody's all over the map. They all have different things, so it's in your messaging. I would still say you lead with the warm, relatable images. You still want to have content. You cannot go, if you're going for B2B, your need for the premium brand image is really important, because you're dealing with executives who are used to a certain kind of expectation. And you have to know that no matter what you do, your website's going to get shopped around by everybody. So whoever's bringing you in, so you want to be able to be thoughtful on how your website's going to get shopped around. That answer the question? Effective?
Yeah, thanks. I have one more question is, your website and the website of Amy is very centric to your person because of you have your photos. And is it a good advice in the B2B market to present me as a person, or should I go more to present my business?
No, it's to a person. I'll tell you, like when I did, like, because my first website was like, I was only B2B. And I had this experience where I looked at why I was winning work against other people. They hire a person, so you look more credible than, like, they don't hire a firm. If they want to do a firm, if they want a McKinsey, they'll go to a McKinsey. If they want a Bain, they'll go to a Bain. They're going to go with a boutique consulting firm. It's because they want that personalized attention with an individual. And the thing about the warm, relatable images is it creates that, that limbic connection, with the audience, where it's like, I want to hire a person. Especially, like, I think what people underestimate about B2B is how vulnerable it is for a B2B leader to bring in a consultant, because they are exposing all of the things that are not going well and all of their dirty laundry to you. So you need to look like somebody that, like, yes, knows what they're talking about, but yes, they feel comfortable that you are going to be safe with all of their confidential information.
Okay. Thanks, that helps me.
Awesome.
Thank you.
What other questions do you have?
You have, or could you send out a list of more websites that you like, good examples? They don't have to be perfect, but just more examples. I'd love to.
I mean, the ones that my team has created, or ones I just like in general?
Either.
If you go to my website, it's under, I think, success stories. One of the ones that's a B2B that I really like is Katie Anderson, KBJ Anderson.com. I really like what my team did with hers. She's a keynote speaker, and I think hers looks really good. It definitely resonates. And when you could see some of the befores and afters with hers. I really like hers. As it relates to somebody who's kind of like in more small businesses, scottjmartin.com. I really like how his logo came out, because I feel like you could see with my clients, like, some of the differences, in terms of, like, people in general. Like, it's hard to just say, like, well, what websites you like. It's like, depends on what's relevant. Like, I might say, I like old iterations of Amy Porterfield's website. I'm not crazy about this latest iteration of her website. So it's looking at, what is it you're trying to convey? What I appreciate about the discipline that my team has is, like, trying to bring out that personality, creating that right color palette, for that person. So it's really depends on that. But I really like, from kbjanderson.com is one of my favorites. scottjmartin.com. I really like how, we did the balance thing for him. Really like that. I can't think of, like, off the top of my head. Does that help or no?
Yes, thank you.
What other questions do you have? Are there any in chat? All right. Well, I think then we are a wrap. Be sure to join for our next month's free webinar. And if you need help with your website, obviously I'm here. If you have a different style, just be more explicit about my team. We're human centric, try to create that credibility element. the things that make us different is we're specialized in consultants and coaches, and how to get it to resonate with your particular audience. So if you want to work with us, awesome. If you have a different style, I have other people I could recommend to you too as well. So either way, if you don't like our style but you kind of like this information, I could have other people I could refer you to. Just email me at betsy@betsyjordan.com, and you could say, love the information, I have a different style, I'll give you a different recommendation. So that is a wrap. Thank you all for coming, and I will see you next month.
Question, Betsy.
Oh, sure.
Sorry, I just raised it after the fact. My hand. Yeah. I mean, I'm not in a position already right this moment, but I'm thinking about it for the future, whether it's later in 2020 or maybe earlier in 2025, getting other ducks in a row. But what's like, to start working with you? What would I, be required to start?
The first thing would definitely be to book the free call, and we'll chat about like what's the right solution for you. Like what's really important for me is like there's definitely things that I offer. I do the brand messaging strategy, like that's the foundational stuff. But there's a lot of different ways that we could slice and dice, like addressing your website needs. Let's say, for example, like one thing that if you feel like if you're a techie or you kind of want to do things on your own, like as I mentioned, those branded backgrounds, like we can get you like a collection of those branded backgrounds, your color palette and all of that, and you can go and do it yourself. Other ways that we can help you if you don't have a lot of money, it's just you want to do a really good one-page website, we can get that going with a blog and a contact page, or we can do the full on. So it's really important for me that I create the right solution for you that maximizes your time, your money budget, and will get you to your goals. So that's what we do.
Okay, thank
Does
you.
that help?
Yeah,
right.
I'll probably have to book so you can get an idea where I'm starting.
Yes.
And where to go.
Yep.
Thank you.
That's it. All right.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you all. I'll see you soon.